This podcast is made possible by you, the supporters of WPLN and WNXP, Nashville Public Radio. This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's May 29th, 2026, and on this day in 1787, a proposal called the Virginia Plan was introduced at the American Constitutional Convention. It laid out the structure we take as the norm now in the United States. 3 branches, each with their own scope of power, but each accountable to the other 2. And that's how it's supposed to work now on the federal level and within each state. But there are some limitations. Kind of. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with context and backstory from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. For the most part, when we talk about the various powers of each branch of government and about the system of checks and balances, we're talking about the way they exert power over the people at large. If legislators take things too far with a law, the president or governor can veto it, or the courts can rule the law is unconstitutional. But what about the things they do that don't go so far as becoming a law? What about the way they treat their own members? Now, this is a very timely issue right now as we see the fallout from the recent special session that redrew Tennessee's congressional maps. Republicans had the supermajority to exert near total control over the proceedings. Democrats grasped at whatever opportunity they could find to voice their opposition. And some of those methods, like staging a walkout or holding protest signs and singing civil rights anthems, let's just say they don't fall cleanly within the internal rules that govern what is and isn't allowed in the House and Senate chambers. Now, those Democrats are facing sanctions. House Speaker Cameron Sexton has suspended them from committees and hinted that more discipline could be coming. This week, Senate Speaker Randy McNally singled out Senator Charlene Oliver. He removed her from a committee that meets in the summer and barred her from doing any summer travel on legislative business, like attending conferences. The Tennessee Constitution offers legislators a degree of protection from blowback to their words and actions as lawmakers. In Article 2, Section 13, it grants them limited immunity from being arrested at the State House for any reason other than treason, felony, or breach of the peace. But that doesn't mean it's a free-for-all. Because one item prior, Section 12, specifies that the House and Senate set and enforce their own rules. They decide what qualifies as disorderly behavior, and they can go so far as expelling a member for crossing those lines. Every 2 years, when a new legislative cycle begins, one of the first orders of business in each chamber is to adopt that set of rules. Generally, they tend to stay pretty consistent from session to session, but they could theoretically start from scratch every time. Theoretically, they could say every member needs to dress in UT orange or risk expulsion. That's a silly example. But my point is that they have broad leeway. And when there is a supermajority in power, that essentially means that the majority party gets to set rules that may feel onerous to the minority party. You probably remember what happened 3 years ago to the Tennessee Three. A trio of state representatives, Democrats Justin Jones of Nashville, Justin J. Pearson from Memphis, and Knoxville's Gloria Johnson, protested the majority's refusal to pass more stringent gun laws. Their action came during a break in legislative business, but it was on the House floor. The chamber's Republican leadership accused them of breaking the somewhat vague rules about maintaining decorum. The House voted to expel Jones and Pearson and came very close to having enough votes to expel Johnson, too. The local governments in Nashville and Memphis used their constitutional power to appoint replacements by picking Jones and Pearson to go right back to the legislative offices they'd just been booted from. Later that year, the General Assembly gathered for a special session, and special sessions bring a new opportunity for a new set of rules. The ones adopted in the House were far more stringent, including a procedure to silence members. Under those rules, Jones was barred from speaking during the final day of that session. The longstanding norm is that legislatures govern themselves while the other 2 branches stay out of the way. But Jones did take the matter over to the judicial branch. He filed a federal lawsuit saying the rules were selectively enforced and that he was unfairly singled out. The court ruled that legislative business is the legislature's business. In other words, the norm was enforced. The judge said the legislature runs its own show and the courts have to stay out of it. As it stands now, Tennessee's House is operating under rules that specifically give the Speaker the freedom to add new decorum rules as he sees fit. The Senate rules don't spell out that kind of carte blanche for its Speaker, but they do give the Speaker broad authority to keep the peace, so to speak. And since this is an election year, when the General Assembly gathers again in January, it will be another opportunity to tweak those rules. In just a few minutes, it's never too late to seek healing for childhood trauma. That's coming up after the newscast.
The justice system is complicated. I'm Paige Flager, and as WPLN's criminal justice reporter, I'm constantly asking, is the system working? And who is it working for?
The system is broken. I think it's more punitive than anything.
And this is not about justice anymore. This is about vengeance.
We're trying to get justice from a justice system that failed us.
How policies impact real people. Hear their stories here on WPLN News.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. The national push for congressional redistricting has hit hurdles in other southern states. Tennessee's new map is still in place, but the legislature's move to split Memphis into 3 districts is still being challenged in federal court. The redistricting craze kicked off earlier this month after the U.S. Supreme Court gutted part of the Voting Rights Act. WPLN's Mariana Bacchiao explained that case on This is Nashville.
And in that ruling, they were looking at a Louisiana district that was, specifically made to give Black voters more of a say in Congress. And that was a district that stretched 250 miles, as they point out. Memphis's congressional district was very compact. It was just the city of Memphis. And now that 9th congressional district stretches, I would say, more than 250 miles. Just, if you plug it into Google Maps from one end to the other, it's close to 300 miles to make that drive across District 9.
The new map faces challenges from the NAACP, the ACLU, the League of Women Voters, and the Tennessee Democratic Party. They say the new districts will confuse voters and harm candidates. State election officials say they have enough state funding to accommodate the change before the 2026 midterms. People in Memphis say that city's Memphis Safe Task Force has attempted to surveil and intimidate them for documenting immigration arrests. In new filings, plaintiffs represented by the ACLU say they've been tackled to the ground, surveilled, and followed home by members of the task force, which is a collaboration of federal, state, and local law enforcement. The state's HALO law prohibits filming within 25 feet of an officer while they're conducting official business. Yesterday, the ACLU alleged that the task force actions go beyond the law and amount to retaliation. It's asking the court to stop the task force from following citizens for filming immigration arrests. The rules governing Tennessee's hemp industry are going to change in about a month. That's because of a combination of adjustments to both state and federal regulations. On July 1st, the Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission, or ABC, will fully take over oversight of hemp. Task 1 for ABC will be enforcing a ban on many of the state's most popular hemp-derived cannabis products. That will mark the end of a deal that gave the hemp industry more time to keep selling marijuana-like products such as THCA. Those had been available under a federal loophole, which is closing. The Tennessee Lookout reports roughly 3/4 of all current hemp sales involve products that will no longer be allowed. At the same time, President Trump's administration has reclassified marijuana. Rather than categorizing it as a dangerous, addictive drug, it is now considered Schedule III as a recognition of its potential medical benefits. Nashville's redevelopment of the city's East Bank has been years in the making. While the area is still largely a sea of concrete, WPLN's Cynthia Abrams reports things are starting to get off the ground.
Hundreds gathered this week in a large, empty parking lot. Outfitted with shovels and confetti, city and project leaders celebrated the groundbreaking of the first residential building on the East Bank. That included developer Michael Fallon.
This is when the project stops becoming something that's on paper and starts becoming something that we're doing.
But this isn't all the city's newest neighborhood has had to toast to recently. Last month, TPAC released design plans for its new facility on the East Bank. Oracle looks ready to start building a new pedestrian bridge this summer, connecting its East Bank campus to Germantown. And last week, the NFL announced the new Nissan Stadium, a controversial taxpayer-subsidized facility, would host the 2030 Super Bowl. Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell said the stadium was intrinsically linked to the new neighborhood.
By 2030, this place will look a lot different than it does today. Not everything along the central waterfront will be finished, but there will be some important new neighbors to the stadium.
An open-to-the-public kickoff party for the residential building will be held on the East Bank this Saturday. Cynthia Abrams, WPLN News.
This week, the Clarksville City Council had an intense discussion over a proposed 34% property tax increase for the next fiscal year. City officials say the new tax rate would bring the city to a structurally sound budget and provide adequate pay to police officers and firefighters. Some council members, like Councilman Brian Zacharias, think a 34% increase all at once is not the answer to the city's budget issues. But others, including Councilman Tim Chandler, indicate there isn't much choice. He says it's time that we quit eating steak on a bologna budget, and that is a direct quote. The City Council will meet next Thursday to move discussions forward. Tennessee's about to turn the ripe old age of 230. Our statehood day is Monday, June 1st, and it's garnering extra attention this year as America celebrates its 250th birthday. A state celebration is planned this weekend. It will feature more than 50 folk artists, ranging from dancers to musicians to artisans. They've all participated in the Traditional Arts Apprenticeship Program, which itself is having a 10th anniversary. The program encourages master artists to mentor the next generation, like banjo buff Trenton Carruthers. The Statehood Day event is free tomorrow at the Tennessee State Museum. It will also feature Choctaw beadworking, marble, hat, and broom making, and Kurdish music. You can find features on several artists by searching for Folklife on our homepage. Well, the rain this week seems to be paying off. Middle Tennessee's drought has eased a bit. The area is now in moderate drought, according to the weekly Federal Monitor. It's been in severe and sometimes even extreme drought this spring. WSMV reports that in the past week or so, Nashville got 3 inches of rain. Typical for this time of year would be 1 inch.
You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org.
Growing up in rural Arkansas, Billy Hudson wasn't a dreamer or a diamond in the rough. He was simply a survivor of poverty and trauma. As we hear his story, a warning to listeners, there are mentions of violence and self-harm. Hudson slept with a loaded shotgun under his bed at his mother's request, just in case he needed to kill his abusive father. He would go on to become a renowned biochemist, and at Vanderbilt he started a summer program called Astronauts to help kids like himself get into the sciences. He was interviewed by Blake Farmer on This Is Nashville and talked about what finally drove him to therapy at the age of 71.
So I started opening up a little bit about my life to students. Well, okay, I've been there before. When I started doing that, more students want to talk to me. Their stories they equal my story. But it started impacting me because I'm already, aftermath is starting to work on me. Now,
even 50 years afterward.
Yeah. 60, yeah. But then you see, here's a young boy, a young girl. She tells me, "Can I tell you something?" Yeah, go ahead. I hope I'm your friend. Yeah. I was raped by my stepfather. Yeah. Wait. Do you ever tell anybody that? No, sir. You're the first person. Well, those things would start to get me. I want to go get the guy.
Yeah.
I've been there before.
You have the 12-year-old with the shotgun.
Exactly. That's who's in my head. So I can't do anything about it. It's overwhelming. Now it gets me. You think it helps me? I'm trying to help them, but I'm going under because I can't handle it. So that's when I went into deeper depression.
Well, it's just fascinating to me that you go in trying to, pay forward what you've been given, and it starts bringing you down. That must have been such a complex emotion to think, I am certainly not helping myself here.
No, so you say, I want to die. I want out of it. Because your mind now is where they are, as well as I'm back at home in Grapevine. Yeah, I come out a little bit to work on my science. Yeah. I got to keep that going. But your mind is twofold. It's in two places. It goes back and forth, back and forth. Well, after a while, you go, hey, there's a better way. I don't want it anymore.
Wow.
That's when my wife steps in. And she says, you got to get help. So we found a psychologist. And the first day was a turning point. He said, why are you here? I said, I'm trying to find a reason to live. He said, what do you think's going on? I said, well, I think it has something to do with the way I grew up. And he says, you don't have to live that way. There is a way. It'll take a lot of work if you're willing to do it. He said, if you do it and you learn how to deal with it, you can help a bunch of other people. Suddenly, I'm starting to think, maybe there is a purpose for me. It's crazy, right?
Not enough to save yourself, but if you can also save others at the same time.
Thank you. I'd rather save others than myself.
So mental health support is now part of the program.
Yes. Because the way we lead it is that I tell them more of my story, right? And the thing that a psychologist saved my life. Now, the same psychologist will come to them, and he and I do a dog and pony show. I go, well, this is a guy, but let me tell you my dark story. And we go play off of each other because it doesn't have to be a destination. There are ways to get past this bad stuff that's in the aftermath. There's a process, and now I know what it is. If you've been damaged and you don't really know it, and then somebody tells you, a wife or a friend, your behavior's not quite right, there's something that's not quite right. Maybe you would say, well, I'm depressed. So when a person says that, I have found you don't just say, you need to go to a psychologist. You need help. No, you get them by the arm and you take them there. Well, that's what my wife did.
That was Billy Hudson speaking with Blake Farmer on This Is Nashville, and you can hear the entire conversation in the This Is Nashville podcast feed. And we do this roundup of Nashville news every weekday, so subscribe in your favorite podcasting app to make sure you never miss an episode. And if you like this, you'll probably enjoy the Nashvillager newsletter, too. You'll get perspective from more of my colleagues at Nashville Public Radio and links to the stories we're following. Sign up for those daily emails at wpln.org/Nashvillager. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up next week.